I started a school in 2009 called Camara Academy. We are the Camara Academy Warrior Scholars. Today I'm here to talk about black schools, a matter of life and cultural death. I know that's some serious words, but I believe that is the truth, right? So I would like to begin here, for all of us here. What is our highest aspiration for our children? What is our highest aspiration, right? We want our children to love learning, yes. We want our children to be self-aware. We want our children to be confident, independent, right? We want our children to be those things. I've never heard anybody, when I ask that question, I have never heard anybody say, I want my child to pass the standardized test that the state has given them. I want my child to be more obedient to authority. I want my child to be non-creative. I haven't heard anybody tell me that before. Our highest aspiration for our children is to bring forth their genius, right? To educate them, which means to, or the root word, it comes from educere, which is Latin, for to pull forth from what is already within them, right? That's our highest aspiration for our children. So if that's our highest aspiration for our children, we have to ask the question, what kind of children, or what kind of people are these schools producing? And are they producing those children with self-awareness, with self-love, with confidence and independence? Are they producing those children that have a love of learning? And if we're talking about African children, African-American children, or black children, we have to be honest with ourselves and say that that is not what these schools are producing. Am I right or wrong? Right. Am I right or wrong?
Correct.
Right? So we have to understand that these schools are producing children who are being killed mentally, who are being castrated psychologically, right, academically, every day in these schools. I think we have to understand that our children are getting less and less attention, right, harsher and harsher punishment, and guess what? They're getting all kind of miseducation, right? They're getting all kind of miseducation, and the disengagement is running very rampant in our schools, right? Particularly black boys. If you watch the black boy in kindergarten and first grade, he has a spark of learning, of wanting to learn in his eyes. But by third grade, we see that spark has dulled, right? And he does not like school, does not want to be there, because the school is not speaking to his soul. The school is not speaking to his inner being. The school is not trying to bring out what he already has within him, his genius. Black girls as well. And we already know about the standardized test in third grade, where they are taking the black boys, their reading scores. If they're behind grade level in reading in third grade, then they say, you know what, we got a bed for you 10 years from now in a prison. Right? They can't build the prisons, just tomorrow. They have to be able to project how many black boys are going to be in those prisons. Right? So they take third grade reading scores to see what's going to happen with them. Right? And they make sure that those boys never get on track with their reading. I don't know what the dropout rate is here in Shreveport for black people, but across the country it's 50%. Easy. I mean, in some places it's 70%, 75%, right? Easy. But would you get on a plane that takes off and lands safely 50% of the time? No. Would you go to a restaurant that only gets your meal correct the first time, 50% of the time? For our women, would you go to a hairdresser that only gets your hair right the first time, 50% of the time? Would you do that? No. You would not do it. So why do we send our children to the public school system that only gets it right 50% of the time? If that. Right? The dropout rate, like I said, is 50%, and there was a study that was done that said that black male dropouts have a higher IQ than black male graduates. That's deep. Maybe the smart ones are getting out before they get too much indoctrination. Now, I'm not trying to say that black boys should not finish high school. I'm not saying that, but I think we have to think about why they are not finishing high school. Because we got these guys in the schools, right? What are they called? Public safety officials, right? Public safety officers. What are they called?
Serve and protect.
Serve and protect. They're not for serving and protecting our children. I mean, we've seen videos and pictures from all over the country where 6-year-olds are being handcuffed. Black boys are in the school in 5th grade getting their collarbones broken because they're being hemmed up by these public safety officials. Something is wrong with that. What are we preparing them for? If we have all these police and metal detectors in the schools, we're preparing them for jail. That's what it is. right? There's a classroom to prison pipeline that has been going on for a very, very long time. Here in Shreveport, I'm sure, in Baton Rouge, I'm sure, anywhere where African people are a majority in the schools, it's happening, right? I was teaching in Baton Rouge. I was teaching in a middle school, and I came in the middle of the year because I had just moved from D.C., from teaching out there in D.C., and I went up in the classroom and I was teaching English. I said, I'm going to be your language arts teacher for the rest of the year. Right? One of the black boys in the back of the class, he raised his hand. He said, you ain't going to be my English teacher for the rest of the year. I said, hold on now. I said, he must be trying to check me, trying to tell me that he's going to run me out of here like he ran the other teachers out of here. He said, nah, man, this has nothing to do with you. They're going to put me out of this school before we take tests in the spring because they don't want to break down their schools. And sure enough, him and a number of other black boys were expelled from school before the school year was out. Right? There's one school in New Orleans that they call Little Angola. It's a charter school down there, Miller McCoy. They call it Little Angola because they say, the students say it's like a prison. Right? It's like a prison that's going on. And our boys are warring against themselves. Our boys don't have an enemy, don't have nowhere to focus their righteous rage. Right? And there's an African proverb that says that a warrior without war will what? War against themselves. Right? So we have to teach our boys what it is to be a man, right? Teach our girls what it is to be a woman so they won't war against themselves. Right? And the miseducation that's going on, I feel, is like dirty water. Sending our children to the private food system, the public food system, is like forcing them to drink dirty water, and we get mad when they come home sick. You can't get mad when they come home sick. If they're in contaminated soil, there's an African proverb that says that a plant, no matter how healthy, can exist, can thrive in contaminated soils. And the schools are contaminated soils for our people. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I feel like we are aborting the minds of our children at a very, very young age. Right? And they become surrogate carriers of the white supremacist ideology. They become black people with blue eyes when they look at themselves. They see the world through blue eyes or light brown eyes. Right? That's the way they see the world. They look at another black person, that's my enemy. So of course, if I hate the person that I'm looking at that looks just like me, then what am I going to do with that person? Right? I am going to kill that person. I'm going to do harm to that person. And that is what the schools are producing. Right? Amos Wilson, I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Amos Wilson, but he's written many books, Blueprint for Black Power, Black on Black Violence, the Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in the Service of White Domination, right? The Falsification of African Consciousness. He has another book called Awakening the Natural Genius of the Black Child, and another book called Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Right? Those are books that I think we all should be reading, particularly The Falsification of African Consciousness, which is about a 180 page of pure goodness. He's a black psychologist. Right? And he said that the purpose of education is to secure the survival of a people. That's the purpose of education. Many of us believe that the purpose of education is to get our children ready for what? Jobs. And guess what? The Europeans don't have jobs for themselves, so what are we getting them ready for? The jobs are being outsourced to other places. How would our education be different if actually we taught our children how to build jobs for themselves? Be totally different. And how is our education different from our enslaved ancestors if we are only learning how to be educated servants of other people? When our ancestors came here, right, 400, 300, 200 years ago, they were trained on a plantation to do what? Bring more profit to the slave master. Right now, we are training our children in these schools to bring what? More profit to somebody else. Their highest aspiration when they get out of school is to get away from the black community. Am I right or wrong? To get away from people that look just like them. It's not about helping our people to solve our issues, but we're trying to help other people solve their problems. Right? Education has to be an education that teaches them how to keep alive their people, to secure the survival of our people. Right? And it has to be based upon their purpose. Our schools have to, pull forth again from within them, their purpose. What is your purpose? Did the schools that you went to, did they help you achieve your purpose? Did they even ask you, what is the thing that gives you energy, that gives you joy, that gives you a spark? Right? Those schools don't ask us that at all. But imagine if we taught them to remember and live their purpose. Right? And their purpose is to use their personal skills and talents for the benefit of their community. If it does not benefit their community, they got to find another purpose. Because many of our children feel their purpose is to get money. and we get money, for the trinkets, for the materialism that this society puts out there, then of course who are they going to kill? Us. Who are they going to look at? Us. To mooch off of or to get whatever they need from us. Right? That's a problem. We have to tell them that you had a purpose before you were born. And we need to be those mentors, those jignas that help them remember that purpose so that they may be great. Remember that purpose so they may have a natural genius that comes through them. But we have children like this in our schools. Children are bored. I know we saw the Waiting for Superman documentary. Ain't nobody waiting on Superman. Our children are waiting for us to stand up. They're waiting for us to say, you know what, enough is enough. They're waiting for us to put them in the curriculum, right? Because I say this, and many of you probably don't have Facebook, right? But if you have a Facebook and somebody tags you in a picture, right, on Facebook, and you go to that picture and you see yourself is not in that picture, if you're not in that picture, what do you think about that picture? You're like, this picture is okay. I'm going to untag myself from this picture. I don't know why this person tagged me. I might actually defriend this person for tagging me in a silly picture. I'm not in it, right? But if a person tags you in a picture and you're in that picture, you begin to look at yourself, you say, you know what, I look beautiful here. I like this picture. And you might make that picture your profile picture. Our children don't see themselves in that curriculum. Our children don't see themselves in the picture. And if they don't see themselves in the picture, they don't care about that picture. They don't. I mean, people say, well, everything can't be about black history. Everything ain't got to be about black history, but, the children need to see themselves in the curriculum. Right? Our children are a square block that we're trying to put in around home. I believe that. I don't think reform is the solution. I think our children need to see themselves. There's a student at my school, he came from Little Angola, right? And he asked him, what is your purpose, man? What do you feel like you are here to do in this world? Because you're not here just to breathe, just to eat, sleep, You are here for a purpose. What is your purpose? He said, I want to make video games. I said, okay. Man, I know a lot of these video games are very violent, right? People shooting each other, taking each other's cars, and just, just doing crazy stuff on the video games. He said, I want to make video games. I said, okay. How can I teach you through your interests? So I said, I'm going to get you the best books on video game design, and I'm going to teach you English, I'm going to teach you history, I'm going to teach you science and mathematics through teaching you about video games. And I'm talking about there's an African proverb that says that when you want to know how fast a child can go, send them where they want to go. And this brother didn't even want to read before. But I'm telling you, he read anthropology, he read history, he got deep into science and math because he wanted to learn how to make video games. And the brother actually made a video game where it was about Native Americans and African people trying to keep their continents from being colonized by Europeans. I mean, actually using African Sentinel, African spirituality, and African spirituality terms in the game. Imagine if your child was sitting there and playing a game that taught them about themselves, that taught them the names of their God, not the name of somebody else's God, but the names of their God, taught them their culture, right? Because our children sit all day in front of these video games anyway, right? And when people say their children have ADHD, I say your children, they don't have ADHD. I think ADHD is, as Brother Umar Johnson would say, absent daddy in the home disorder. You don't have ADHD, they need BELT. They need a belt, right? But I ask people also, I said, can your child sit in front of a television for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours without moving? They say yes. I say, well, your child doesn't have ADHD. Okay. They are disengaged. Oh. So we have to do a better job in the schools, right, of engaging our children, right? And reform charter schools. Nothing but European privatization of the schools. That they come in from all over the country, change the name of the school, and get the same miseducation. They say we're going to do it for longer hours. More miseducation for longer hours. You think what I'm saying? More medication of our children, and the medication, we don't know what the consequences are of all this medication. The students at our school, we had 3 students that came to our school, they were on medicine. I told their parents, don't give them the medicine anymore. They'll be all right. And guess what? They've been all right at my school, right? Another thing is that if we believe that reform is the solution, we are psychologically, as black people, immature. Because we are going with the conclusions, we are going with the judgments of other people. Other people say, this is the way you do it. Right? So we're not even thinking for ourselves. We're not saying, well, maybe we need to do something different. Whatever the other people say, we say, all right, we'll go with that. This year we got a reading program that's going to teach black children how to read better. Okay, we're going to go with that. This year we got a program that's going to help your child pass the test. Okay, we're going to go with that. We never say, why do I want my child to pass this test in the first place? Is that my highest aspiration for my child? That's not the highest aspiration for my child. So I don't care about those tests. Those standardized tests must go. And actually, I think the standardized tests, look, we don't need standardization. We need customization and Africanization of our curriculum. And if we don't have that, again, we're psychologically immature, and we need to be psychologically mature and do for ourselves. Right? And some people say we need to infuse black history. That's a good idea in the school, because that's where all of our children are. You're right. That's where most of our children are. But guess what? If you're going to teach black history, black people are 7% of the teaching population, right? And the vast majority of those black people don't want anything to do with being black or African. So if you're teaching black history, who is it coming through, right? And do they even want to be black? How are they going to teach that black history? It's not going to be a very good class, because you can teach what you know, but you can only recreate what you are, right? And if you ain't living it, you can't teach it. In the African-centered environment, you must live it in order for you to be credible in front of our children, right? But I'm not saying that I've never thought that reform was good. I ran for school board in Baton Rouge in 2006. I said, maybe if I get up there, 24-year-old graduate student, maybe if I get up in the higher echelons in the situation, maybe I can change some things, right? I didn't win. I got about 20% of the vote. They wanted Noah Hammond. That's who I was going against, a Republican. He was in there for a while. People wanted him out. But since my name was Samori Camara and I was independent, they said, I don't know who this dude is. I'm going to vote for a Republican. I know who he is. Right? But I changed my name. If I was Donald Lewis and a Democrat, I would have won. I'm sure I would have won. Right? But I got an African name and I'm independent. I probably would have put Black Panther Party if I could have. You know what I'm saying? But I ran for school board. And over there, I was at Louisiana State University, Louisiana Slave University is what I call it, right? LSU was good for me a little bit, but it has its issues, right? So I went into free speech and I said, y'all are all going to hell because your children are being miseducated and you don't care. That got your attention. And so we began to talk about what's going on. We talked about teacher curriculum. We talked about abolishing the standardized tests, like I said, and pay raises for the teacher. All those kind of things. So, but the best thing that came out of me running for school board is when I was campaigning in South Baton Rouge, and I saw this older black lady sitting on the porch. I asked her, can I come up and talk with her? She said yes. We talked about 2 hours. So I was just breaking it down to her like I'm breaking it down to you right now. What's going on in these schools? Now we need to change it, right? She said, baby, everything that you're saying is right. I agree with you. But until you have your own school, I gotta send my baby to the white folks in the morning. I shut up after that. I said that was my call to action right there. Look. Yeah, you're right, but until you build your school, your own school, I gotta send my baby to the folks. And right then I realized our people are looking for something different, but there's nothing out there for them, right? So we have to have revolutionary change. Reform is like going from caterpillar to caterpillar. We're gonna change we're gonna change the color of the caterpillar this time. It's gonna crawl this way, right? Revolutionary change is like going from that caterpillar, going through the pain and struggle of coming out of the cocoon and becoming a butterfly. Right? That is able to, that's a totally different change. It's a small little story I heard. It was 2 caterpillars, they were walking on a leaf, right? And one caterpillar said to the other one, after they heard the loud sound of a butterfly flying above them, he said, you couldn't catch me dead in one of those things. As a caterpillar, you're supposed to become a butterfly. Right? But we are scared to transform into who we are supposed to be for our children. We need revolutionary change. Who says the schools must be 12 grades? Who says that the schools, and each grade must be a year long, from August to May? Who says that children should be, placed together by their age alone? Right? Maybe they should be placed together by their interests. Have we asked any questions about this? Or have we, again, been psychologically immature and taken whatever other people have said as the gospel? That's a problem that we have. We got to think for ourselves, right? And I believe that Camara Academy, this is some of my students, you see the red, black, and green flag, we are not playing. Our children pledge allegiance to the red, black, and green flag every day. Black children in these public food systems, private food systems, are pledge allegiance to the American flag every day. Over 18,000 times in their lifetime. And never once pledge allegiance to a flag that actually loves them. at LSU, this is a little sidebar, we was fighting to get rid of the Confederate flag on campus because they were flying during the game days, right? And you'll see it in, you know, red, white, and blue. You see it in purple and gold, right? And I was debating with this white boy one time, and he got me. I mean, he broke it down for me, right? He said, "You're trying to ban the Confederate flag because, you know, it has something to do with slavery. But guess what? The American flag has more blood on it. Our people were enslaved under the American flag for a lot longer than they were enslaved under the Confederate flag." I said, that's deep. I said, that's deep, right? So we have to understand that the reading, writing, and arithmetic, those 3 R's, are no good for us. I got another 3 R's. The first one is relationship. We must have relationships with our children if we're going to teach them. Our children know, as soon as you walk into that classroom, whether you love them or not. And the Teach for America teachers who get told that if you go down to a rural or a poor school for 2 years, we'll forgive your loans. They don't care about our children. They're going to get their loans repaid, and they're out of the door. Most of them don't even last for 2 years. Right? So we got the worst teachers in America who learn about 3 weeks during the summer how to teach, right? Never dealing with black children, and they go into our schools and are expected to educate our children like they should be educated. And that's not the case. We have to have a relationship. Our relationship to our children must be based upon love if you're going to teach them. It must be based upon the fact that you, my history, and your history is intimately intertwined. So if I fail you, I fail myself. Right? The people that's coming into our schools, if they fail us, they go back to their community. They don't have to worry about us anymore. Oh, that was a good time. They got pictures in New Orleans at the bar. They don't care about our children. Right? Another R is relevance. It has to be relevant. If our children are having problems with self-esteem, we need a class for that. If our children are having a problem with how to have good black male and female relationships, we need a class for that, right? Our classes, our curriculum must be based upon who we are, and it must be rigorous. It must be rigorous. Our children are beautiful. They're geniuses, yes, but they must know the value of hard work. They must know the value of not making excuses, because they make excuses now, they'll make excuses later, and we don't need those kind of African people making excuses. We got enough of those already. We got enough of the people who are scared to take risks already. So we got to teach them to do that. And it must be rigorous because they need to be able to rebuild an African society based upon our values and our culture, right? They need to rebuild an African nation, and that's not going to be easy, right? So we need to teach them in that way. Another thing, I read about a good experiment by Stanley Milgram. I don't know if anybody has heard of Stanley Milgram. He did an experiment in the 1960s, right? When they brought in two volunteers, a teacher and a person who would be the student. And they said to the teacher, okay, I'm going to give you some words for this student to memorize. If they do not remember them, you give them a shock, right? And so as they got started, they were saying, you know what, I don't think normal people will continue to give these other normal people a shock just for not remembering words. I don't think it's going to go on too long. But they were wrong, right? The teacher volunteers continue to give, you know, the volunteer student shock after shock after shock, and the volunteer student was strapped into a chair and screaming like, let me go, get me out of here. This is an innocent person who just don't remember, you know, the word pairs. That's it, right? So some of them, and many of them, were stressed out about the situation. They say, you know, I don't think this should continue to go on. I think this is wrong. And all the experimenter had to say was, the experiment requires that you continue. The experiment requires that you continue, right? So the next logical step for that person who's a teacher is to say, you know what? I am not okay with this experiment. I am walking away from this. That didn't happen very much. Over 70% of the time, those people continue to shock the volunteer over and over and over again. Now they didn't know that the volunteer student were just acting, right? They didn't know that. They didn't know that it really didn't have any voltage going to that person. They didn't know that, but they continue to do it, right? And I believe that the teachers in our school know that they are dealing death to our children, know that they are shocking our children, right? With this Eurocentric curriculum, with this over testing, but they are not man or woman enough to step outside and say, you know what, enough is enough. It's enough, right? We have too many white and black teachers trying to put a white mind into our children, and it has to stop. It has to stop, right? So when I went back into the school system after I ran for school board, right? You know, in understanding that experiment, I said a teacher is either a liberator and oppressor, or an oppressor. There's no in between. You're either trying to liberate your children, or you're continuing to oppress them, right? So I went back into the school system, and I taught at Scotlandville High School, right? And I was teaching English, 10th grade English. The students, as they always do in most public schools, they were, teaching them for the test, right? I didn't teach them for the test in my class, but everybody was getting ready for the GEE, the graduate exit exam, right? And so when it came around that spring in March or April, when it came around, the students took the test. They did well on the test. Well, they thought they did well. They said, Brother Camara, thank you for helping me out, with the English part. They didn't have any questions about black people on there. I think they had one about Martin Luther King, but thank you for helping us out, right? So about 3 weeks later, the principal came on the intercom and said, we're going to have another round of testing, students. This time it's going to be a field test, an experimental test to see which questions we are going to use on next year's GEE, right? I said, wait now. Now, why don't you use the real GEE that they just took to find out which questions are good and which questions are not good, right? Why would you give them another test, an experimental test, a field test that doesn't mean anything, right? So I asked the students, I said, I've been talking this revolutionary talk all semester. What are you going to do about this? Well, I'm going to stay home, Brother Camara. I'm not going to take the test. I am going to mark anything on the test. I said, no. Come to school. Sit down. Let the teacher give you the test. But I want you to tell them why you're not going to take this test. Why you're not going to be used as a lab rat, right, or a guinea pig, right? And so the next day came. 90% of the students didn't take the test. And they came back to me and they said, Brother Camara, we did it. Only one person took the test in my class. Only 5 people took the test in my class, Brother Camara. But tomorrow, we're going to keep on doing it. Right? And I cried with them when they came back because I'm like, these are 10th graders who have more heart and more courage than many of our African-American, our African adults. Right? And so there was a faculty meeting that evening, and the vice principal, she was talking about the day's events. She said, I hear there's some teacher that's telling the students not to take the test, but we got to tell them to take the test because we need this money. We need this money. That's what she said. And I said, if you're going, so I raised my hand in the faculty meeting, I said, if you're going to talk about this, let's talk about it directly. Let us ask the question, why are you using our children like this just for the dollars? Right? Just for the numbers. Right? She said, no, we're not going to talk about this, Brother Camara. And, I had them call me Brother Camara also. We're not going to talk about this. I said, yes, we are going to talk about it. And I saw a whole bunch of black faces in there. Right? Other black teachers who knew that they were deliberately shocking our children, dealing death to our children with this over-testing, but who would not stand up. So I had to give it to them. I had to tell them, like, yo, somebody stood up for you. Somebody spoke for you when you were wrong. We got to stand up for these children. Right? So anyway, after that little tirade, they asked me to leave. Okay, so I left. But I said, wait, they didn't fire me. So the next morning, I came back to school like nothing was wrong. All right? The principal met me outside. He said, Brother Camara, I'm gonna have to ask you to go to the school board, right? And I said, okay, let me just go upstairs and get the rest of my things, right? So I was walking in the hall, and the students are they see me in the hall, they say, Brother Camara, you're putting their fist up, we love you, and all this kind of stuff. So I get my stuff out of the class, and I write on the board, fight the power and stand up. I love you. Right? And I left. And as I'm in the parking lot, one of my students came up to me and said, Brother Camara, where you going? They fired you? I said, I don't really know, man, but I have gone as far as I can go with you. I have given you all that I could give you. Now it's time for you to continue on. Right, to continue to help your people, right, to continue learning about yourself. There's going to be risks, there's going to be challenges along your way, right, and my situation is an example, but I know you can do it, because I know you're great, you're a warrior, and all the other students are warriors. Keep on doing what you do, right, and so that day was the second day of testing. 95% of the students didn't take the test that day, and the students wore signs on them that said, fight the power and stand up, and other black teachers took it off them and ripped it up. I said, why are you so into that black stuff? And whenever somebody says that, I say, what do you mean? You're into that black stuff? You're black. Are you into that white stuff? I never hear a white person say, why are you so into that white stuff? You ever hear that? I never heard that. Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever heard that? Nah, they never heard that before. Right? So I've never heard it either. So we got to stop being, it's on that black stuff. We got to be on that black stuff. Right? Nobody else is on that black stuff. Who's going to take care of us if we don't take care of ourselves? Right? So we came back to the school and we protested. We wanted to let the students know that we are here for you, right? And many of the students ran out of the school to join us. They locked the school down. As they said, I was like I was a terrorist or something. You know, I'm across the street from the school, we're protesting, and we see that we have a sign here that says the 3 R's of education: read, remember, and regurgitate. That's what it was, right? We said the GEE, okay, check. The other test, come on, that's an X. We don't need the extra test, right? African-centered education is the key. That's what we have to have, right? And when I was leaving from the faculty meeting, I called my advisor at LSU, my dissertation advisor, and I said, man, I'm crying on the phone. I said, we need our own schools, man. People don't respect us, right? They will never get it right for us. We got to do it for ourselves, right? So we need Saturday programs, Saturday schools, and we got to do that. We have a homeschool down there in New Orleans, Camara Academy. We got to do homeschools, right? Homeschool collectives, right? You can't teach English, okay, that's fine. Somebody else can teach English. You can teach mathematics, whatever. We got to get together and do it ourselves. Brother Umar Johnson says that we need boarding schools. We talk about people that go to the military, right? What do? They go to boot camp. For how long? About 3 months? You can't talk to nobody unless you write them, right? Because they are there to get indoctrination by the U.S. government, the Army, or the Navy, or whatever they do. We need to be able to control what our children listen to, what they see, right, and what they learn. That is the only way we can get a black mind in them. That's the only way we can get an African-centered worldview in them, right? But we're missing the call. Our children are calling us. We're missing the call, right? If we miss the call, if we refuse to act on the knowledge that we have about the situation that our people are in, then we're going to continue to have the same thing, same result. The dropout rate, the killing in the streets, right? We're going to have the fact that 70% of black babies are born out of wedlock. We're going to continue to have that, right? Who's calling? Your children are calling. Every day they come home and tell you that the school is boring. They're not teaching me anything. But you tell them, but listen to what that teacher tells you to do, right? That's it. Right? They are telling us, they are speaking to us very, very clearly. But we're not listening. Right? We're not listening. And there is no cure that does not cost. Yes, we have to risk some things. Right? Some of us are on the PRC, the Plantation Reform Committee. Right? We don't want to get off the plantation, we just want to reform it a little bit. Give a little bit more chitlins and hog balls. Right? We want to get, some better shoes on the plantation. We don't want to leave the plantation. We don't want to go anywhere. We want to stay right there. Right there, right? But you must sacrifice what you are for what you shall become. You got to sacrifice what you are for what you shall become. You can't stay the same and think you're going to get free. It ain't going to happen, right? And the future of our race depends on what we do today, right? But we're afraid of the unknown, right? I heard a story. It's this guy, and I'm wrapping up. It's this guy, he was a soldier, he was caught behind enemy lines, right? And the captain of his captors told him, he said, you got 2 choices. You can go to the firing squad in the morning, or you can go through that door right there that says unknown horrors. You choose. He thought about it, he said, okay, I'll take the firing squad in the morning. Right? Sure enough, he was killed the next morning. But one of the soldiers said, Captain, who's behind that door that said unknown horrors? He said, freedom. But so many people have not gotten over their fear of the unknown. We got to get over that fear of the unknown. Because if we take this challenge, right? We take this challenge, we'll have children who know themselves, who know their culture, and will be able to pass it on to the next generation. I have some children here who are cultivated. Culture means cultivate. What are we cultivating in our children? What seeds are we planting into them? Are we planting the seeds of self-love, self-knowledge, and self-awareness? Or are we planting some other seeds? We got to plant something else. And some of people, we don't talk about this, but we will have children, if we take this challenge, who will have children who will have somebody else to marry. Because I'm sure most of us do not, if we have children, we're not looking forward to the black boy or black girl our children bring home, right? But we have to train those black boys or those black girls so that our daughters can marry those black men who know something about themselves. Our sons can marry those black girls who know something about themselves and who continue the culture, who know their purpose, and they're aligned in their purpose, right? So it can be a better blending of the family coming together. If we don't have people who our children can marry, guess what? We still have the out of wedlock births that we have, right? We still have all the problems we have in our relationships, right? And if we have all the problems in our relationships, then we don't have no black family, we have no black nation, right? Another thing, if we take this challenge, we have less violence in our community. People who love themselves don't kill each other. As simple as that. Am I right or wrong? People who love themselves don't kill each other. People who love themselves don't talk about killing each other on the radio all day, every day. right? That gets played on the radio. But have you ever heard a country song that's talking about killing other white people? Would you listen to that song? Would you listen to a song, as a white person, would you listen to a song that is talking about killing people that look just like you? Probably not, right? They might have a song that's talking about, at the bar drinking, you know what I'm saying? Drowning my sorrows. But you ain't gonna talk about killing other white people and have that go platinum, right? Come on now. But we have accepted it. We have accepted it, right? We will have more creativity if we accept this challenge. Our children will have more creativity in their ability to solve the challenges that we have, right? And lastly, we'll have innovators and entrepreneurs. That's what we need. We don't need more workers. We got enough workers. We need innovators and entrepreneurs, right? It's going to be risky, yes. It's going to be some pain, yes. But we got to build for those who have come before us, who lived for us and who died for us, right? We got to build for those who are here now because we are our children's future. They are not the future. We are our children's future. And if we don't build for them, guess what? We ain't going to have no future, right? And we have to build for those who are yet to come. Those who are yet to come. Those who will stand someplace, somewhere, and say thank you to you because you were an African warrior that did for your people, right? And I end this way. I always end this way. There's an African proverb that says that if the orange tree in the backyard begins to produce bitter grapes, it is not enough to cut all the grapes off the tree, pick all the grapes off the tree, and hope for oranges next year. No, you got to cut that tree down and start anew. It is time for us to be psychologically mature and start our own, build our own, right? Because it's about black schools. It's a matter of cultural life and death. It ain't gonna be easy. It ain't gonna be easy. All right? I say thank you. Visit my website, Camara.com. Any questions?